everyone, welcome back to The Learning Gardener. My name is Pip and today we are going to be doing a quick end of autumn garden tour. And I say quick because I think the battery on the camera isn't fully charged, and also because everything's in its small stage, so it's looking good and it's looking like we've made progress, but a lot of things are still really tiny. Something that we've made progress with are the chickens. We've added some chickens to the flock. Everybody's getting along really well, and actually I'm really, I had a lot of reservations about getting more chickens, but I'm glad that we did because they are all so much happier. The new ones are happier because they're out of the horrible cage that they were in and they're not pecking each other, and their skin looks so much less red. It's not red at all now, and they just are settling in beautifully. And the original 3 Bettys are actually way more chill having more chickens around. So it's been a great addition. Do they know how to properly chicken yet? Nope. So they still have no interest in house scraps, no matter what I do to them, whether I chop them up, whether I don't chop them up, whatever. They still haven't worked out the chicken feeder. They just haven't worked out how to chicken properly yet, but they're only little, so you know. And the new 5 haven't worked out how to roost either, but they've never had a roost where they were before, so I've tried. I've been in the chicken coop and, I'm always adjusting things, having watched how the chickens are using them, and I've completely changed the roosting. They still huddle on the floor. Okay, whatever. Do your thing, chickens. The orchard is actually looking really great. We did this together yesterday. Obviously, they haven't gone dormant yet, but it just looks so much better and so much cleaner with a new layer of mulch. It only has a thin layer of who-flung dung mulch, because I'm not sure that I'm going to have enough wood chips to top, but I'm seriously thinking about getting a bit more who-flung dung to put a thicker layer on, just because I prefer the actual look of this to wood chips. But wood chips break down way slower than the who-flung dung. But then the who-flung dung, because it has such a significant chicken poop component, actually fertilizes the ground beautifully, so it's kind of like 2 jobs in one. It's around about the 10th of May, which means we've got 20 days to go until winter officially starts, and you can see the containers have generally done fairly well, given that they weren't planted until autumn, so they really haven't had like a ton of hot weather. It has been a very warm autumn, but I mean, they just know that it's not the right season, and so they don't put on a ton of growth. And like some of these zinnias are looking pretty feral, but there's still a little bit of colour for the bees, so I'll leave them out a little bit longer and then I'll put them in with the chickens for the chickens to do their thing. That being said, all the zinnias I have cut back so far and put in the chicken coop, they've done absolutely nothing with, because they don't know how to chicken properly. They don't even like sunflower seeds, so whatever. But maybe they'll get in there and scratch around and find some bugs, who knows. They do like bugs. But we do have a couple of containers that are looking amazing, like the snapdragons that were on death's door and the petunias. For some reason the petunias are looking great, whatever. But yeah, I think these are mostly nearly done. The fig has put on a ton of growth, and the pomegranate has done absolutely nothing, but everybody's still alive, so that's progress. But yeah, the orchard overall is looking pretty good. I need to do some work on the other side of the fence, because we only did this side yesterday when I planted up 40 bluebell bulbs and a whole stack of daffodils for Mother's Day in memory of my boy. Yeah, so the orchard is looking a lot better, and hopefully come spring it'll be looking absolutely beautiful. This is the pollinator bed that we planted to support the bees through the cooler season as things started to wind down, and it's also a bed that the blackbirds got into and caused a lot of chaos, so we've seen no germination of any poppies, and sorry about the background noise of the whippersnipper next door. And I had to re-sow the cornflowers, but the cornflowers are looking great, and obviously this bed is now full enough that the blackbirds aren't in here. The strawberry fields, I think they're globe amaranth. They might be a gomphrena. I can't remember, but they're absolutely gorgeous. I don't really like red in the garden, but when you dry these, and I've cut a few from here because they've had beautiful long stems, they kind of soften and go a little bit of a pink shade, and I love this like fluoro purple one, but when they both dry, they, as I said, lose a little bit of the intensity of the color, but it actually then makes them a better combination, and I'm hoping that we get enough straw flowers and that I can harvest some more of these and dry more of them, that I can have like these beautiful globe dried flowers of the amaranth and the gomphrenias mixed in with straw flowers and have a really beautiful spring wreath on my front door. The zinnias are looking okay. I'm really not into this color combination. This is the Oklahoma salmon, and I thought that for some reason I planted some that I thought were Oklahoma salmon early in the season and then became obsessed with planting Oklahomas, and subsequently all Oklahoma salmon I am not into. It is not the right kind of coral color that I like. It looks fine with this, is I think a Lilliput yellow or something along those lines. They look fine together, but I just find the Oklahoma salmon is very like really just meh. So hopefully I used all the seeds when I thought I really liked it. The sunflowers that we planted understood that the assignment was summer and that they were planted too late for that, so they barely did anything. I will cut them and give them to the chickens, but as I said, the chickens are silly and they don't like sunflowers, so I bought them like a sunflower feeder thing for when I was away, seeing they can't work out the automatic chicken peck feeder, and they haven't eaten any of that. I've given them sunflower heads, like a huge giant Russian one. Nothing. So I pulled it apart. Nothing. They're just silly chickens. So I will give them these sunflowers, but I expect them to just, I don't know, end up in the compost bin. So through here we've got blackberries that are still putting on stupid amounts of growth. They're actually putting on blooms. On the other side there's actually a flower and the beginnings of a berry, so that just kind of shows you how warm it's been in autumn, that the blackberries are kind of confused. But I don't see any blooms on this side, but I'm thinking like, obviously I'm going to leave that one and hope that maybe I get a winter blackberry, because that'd be all right. But I'm thinking I might prune this thing right back, because I mean it's a thornless blackberry. I really need to do some research as to whether the blackberries grow on new leaves or old branches, and whether I'm going to prune the canes back now, because it's just a beast. It just keeps on growing, and every 5 minutes I'm out here like attaching it to something so that it doesn't root into the ground, because like I swear the second it touches the ground it forms roots and it just really wants to go rogue. At least it wasn't like the golden raspberry that sent up shoots everywhere, so that's something. At least I can rip these ones out of the ground. Oh god, there's more on the ground. Yeah, I need to deal with this. This is a mess. But again, I cut off some canes, gave them to the chickens. No interest. But I am thinking that in summer I will put the raspberries, we moved the raspberries into a container with a flat bottom so they couldn't go everywhere, and I cut them right back so I didn't get stabbed while I was dealing with them. They're actually looking super great and super healthy, but I mean they're in a pot, they're like this big, but so I won't bother showing you. But I'm thinking of putting them in the chicken coop so that any dropped berries in summer get dealt with, although my chickens are silly so they probably won't deal with them. And that way hopefully we won't get as many fruit fly, and also it provides some shade, and it's got something for me to tame the growth of the raspberry on, and also then it's got some protection from birds and things like that. But we've also got our Mary Washington asparagus, which is actually died back a bit earlier this year, probably because I never water in here and it hasn't been fertilized, but it's oddly also putting on some new asparagus. So I don't know, I think we're all a bit confused about what's actually happening with the weather. But this bed I really want to at the very least add some of the winter leaves from my parents' house, although most of them at the moment I donate to the chickens because they're so cute running around in there, scratching in the leaves. But this bed I wanted to put compost in this season, but I didn't have any that was ready. We've already used all the compost that is homemade, and I can't really afford to currently buy more, and Store-bought compost just sucks. So yeah, at least if I put a layer of leaves on it, it will break down and hopefully add some nutrition to the soil. I'm going to show you this bed close up because this bed is kind of characteristic of what is happening in all the beds that I have, not even the ones that I've spread compost in, because this was a tomato bed before, but even the ones that weren't tomato beds are now tomato beds. We have 1 million bajillion little tomato seedlings coming up in all the beds, and they actually look super healthy. So some of them I'm leaving because, you know, whatever, and some of them are still there because it's really hard to weed through the blackbird netting. But at some point, like these ones are all going to get pulled because this is a garlic bed, and I'm just waiting for this capsicum, which anytime you touch it, it snaps off a branch, to actually go dormant. But there are so many tomato seeds in here. Beside the tomato infested garlic bed, we've got this brassica bed that has a couple of snow peas in the middle, just because I needed somewhere to put them, and there was already a climbing structure in place here, and I did move a lot of my climbing structures this autumn. The brassicas, I so desperately want them to work out because last cool season we got none. So I planted a whole bunch really early, and I've planted 1 bajillion seedlings of them, and I've planted a heap of seedlings of them, like almost to the detriment of anything else. And the ones I planted early got smashed by cabbage moth, and the ones I planted sort of a little bit after that were doing beautifully and not getting attacked by anything, and are sprouting really early. But they're not just like sprouting, they're bolting, they're putting on flowers, which is really annoying. So they were in beautiful condition to like make it through winter and put on gorgeous heads over spring, but no, they've decided to flower. So, you know, okay, so then this is my third of 4 plantings of, or third of 5, I think, of broccoli, and they're looking pretty good. There is some cabbage moth damage, and because we've had 20 inches of rain in the last 3 weeks, the things that didn't have cabbage moth damage now have slug damage, and everything has been too wet for me to come out and spray with kaolin clay. So hopefully today or maybe tomorrow I can do that and try and provide a bit of a barrier for them, so they're not getting munched on so much. And like, we're still getting critters in the garden beds scratching around. Some of them are blackbirds, I've still seen them around, but the blackbirds mostly kind of reduced their pressure. But I think we've got, you know, bush rats and mice and everything going digging in the beds looking for either fertilizer. Some of them seem to be pretty keen on the fertilizer, or grubs and things in the soil. So whether we'll get any brassicas, I don't know, but it's a cute little patch, and the dahlia has just died off there, so I'll have to dig that one up soon to divide it because it was my favorite dahlia. But yeah, I mean, it's looking okay, but I don't know if we're going to get any broccoli, seeing they all seem to be wanting to bolt. So maybe the cool weather can't come fast enough. So we'll run through this area pretty quickly. So on the arbors at the back side of this garden, we've got loofahs growing over them. Some of them have started to brown. This was a plant that was planted a little bit later than the one I'll show you over here. So it is not as mature as the other one, but the loofahs are still putting on flowers, and they're still putting on loofahs. I can see, oh, that one's broken, but like a tiny one here, and you might say, oh, they won't mature. There's like 5 or 6 I can see on here, and like another small one here. They mature so, gosh, there's billions of them. And it would be a fair and reasonable thing to assume that these are not going to mature in time to actually achieve anything, because that's what I thought. But the same thing is happening on the other vine, and within 4 or 5 days, it's a pretty significant loofah. Within about 2 weeks, it's a very significant loofah. So, I mean, this loofah is really trying to make sure it produces some seed to repopulate the earth of all loofahs. So, I cannot get over how many little loofahs there are. It's been a while since I've been over here because, you know, rain. But we've also got Dahlia Alley here. no closer to browning off to let me dig up the tubers, so we just have to wait, which is really annoying me because this is where I want to put my garlic for winter, because this area gets a lot of sun, and I'm also like out of beds, and I bought a lot of extra garlic, like a lot, because I really loved having homegrown garlic. Got potato bags that actually need to be harvested. Hey, yes. Oh, red potato, my favorite. And we planted up some sprouting broccoli here, and I think I chucked some lettuce seeds in the back. These are still pretty tiny. We did that at the same time we planted this bed with onion seedlings that were, to probably be fair, a little bit immature when I planted them. And a lot of them didn't survive the 20 inches of rain. They really didn't, which is annoying because it means I have to do this job again. But I guess that was a high risk when I planted such immature garlic seedlings, but I just wanted it done. And I was just kind of like, can you just grow, please? And it was like, no. So, I don't know. I will show you everything closer, or the stuff that's interesting closer, but I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of overall context in terms of where everything is and how the garden kind of looks overall. So we have another loofah archway here, and we are going to have not only enough loofahs for my house and for my best friend who lives 3 doors down's house for a year, we're going to have loofahs for life, because this thing is covered. There's definitely one I could harvest now, possibly 2, and a 3rd on its way, but it is still growing over the tomatoes and putting on a ton of growth and a ton of loofahs, which I just don't understand, but you know, whatever. We've got the red onions that mostly failed to root in, so we're having a great onion run, and we've got a stack of lettuce seeds that I spread in here that I didn't think did anything, and so I sprinkled some more, and now there is like infinity lettuce seedlings coming up here after the rain. Obviously it just wanted some rain to germinate. We've got poppies on the end here. This is the failed onion bed, and we've got I think they're royal maroon snow pea, sugar, what are they called? Royal maroon sweet pea, words are hard, going up hopefully the archway. I've had a mixed bag success with sweet peas this season. In some areas they're doing really well, but nothing has bloomed yet, so hopefully come spring it's going to be pretty specky tack. But yeah, this is a bed that is a mix of things like this capsicum that are about to go dormant, and the marigolds that need to be pulled out, and a tomato plant that is self-seeded itself and is actually looking like the world's healthiest tomato, and some leeks. And this is another bed that has been pestered by the blackbirds, and that also has broccoli that wants to bolt. So, you know, doing well over here. So this just shows you one of the loofahs that's nearly ready. So they have this kind of tip at the bottom, which is where the flower part kind of comes. And once this dries back, that tip will actually kind of pop open and you shake the seeds out, or they just kind of sprinkle out and you'll have loofahs for all eternity. But what I'm waiting for is this to go fully brown. Once it goes fully brown, I can actually soak off the outer casing, and then inside will literally be like the spongy loofah that has no chemicals on it, that I'm going to be able to use in my home to reduce my costs. Like, it's just crazy to me that I can grow this. And I don't know if chickens can eat loofah seeds, but if they can, hopefully my chickens will work out how to eat loofah seeds, although they can't even work out how to eat pumpkin seeds. So we shall see. But this is the other end of the same loofah plant, and it has just drowned the tomato plant, so I haven't even bothered to pull anything out of this bed because the loofah is just still going. When I said like there were immature loofahs on that other one, and I showed you some of the teeny weeny ones, oh, someone's had a crack at eating this, or maybe it got pierced on the galvanized one. Oh no, looks like someone's having a go at eating them. But literally this one was this size a week ago. So they're growing very fast, and there's still a whole bunch more all over it. So, I mean, loofah the performer of the year for sure. Last year in this bed, I thought I'd try an experiment of growing sweet potatoes over winter, just, you know, to see what happens, because we don't get heavy frosts and things like that. And nothing really happened. So I pulled all the tubers and all the vines out, and evidently I did not get all of them, because we now have this vine that is just taken over this area. So again, just decided to leave it, even though in theory you're not supposed to grow potatoes and tomatoes together. They're doing fine. We've still got some little roamers trying to grow here. So at the moment I'm just leaving this bed, and this is kind of like a deal with it later situation. I'll probably deal with it when I deal with the loofahs, but the growth on the sweet potatoes, even though it's had vines all summer, has really only just kicked off recently, and I've seen a few flowers on it. They're quite pretty. They're almost like a petunia style flower, but I guess we'll see if we get sweet potatoes from this bed, and I guess we'll see if we ever get the sweet potatoes out of this bed. But this is where I was just talking about, where we have copious amounts of lettuce seedlings that have germinated, which is really great, because I've sprinkled lettuce seeds throughout the garden, and we have had terrible germination of late. But these are seeds that I saved from, was it a winter lettuce or was it a cos lettuce? I don't know, we'll find out when it gets a bit bigger. But obviously the fact that we've saved the seed has meant that it has performed a lot better in our conditions, because the mother plant helps that seed acclimatize to our conditions. So we're saving more seed, and it looks like we'll have an awful lot of lettuce to save seed from. This is the back side of the bed where we've got the royal maroon sweet peas growing up, and the dill is just looking so beautiful and lush. And it's just interesting how much, like, I planted some out 2 weeks, 3 weeks before this, and it was a bit hotter, and it just bolted almost immediately. So it's just interesting to see how much difference 2 weeks of cooler weather makes for how well the plants grow. And I keep meaning to freeze dry this, but I just haven't got that far. And this is one of the broccolis that keeps, it's a sprouting variety, so it's fine. I just pluck it off when it blooms, but it was blooming before it had even like put on a proper head. So at least this looks like it has a couple of teeny tiny little heads that we can maybe pluck off. We have got a kind of mix of other broccolis and lettuce and beets and things like that in here, and a whole bunch of self-seeded tomatoes. And this tomato plant looks ridiculously healthy, and so does actually the one beside it. And the zinnias in this bed just pretty much died instantaneously once we put them in. So these should be a pineapple tomato, which is a tomato that I really love, and so do the parrots. But given that the seedling looks so healthy, I'm just going to leave it, and we're going to see what happens. I have had little tiny seedlings that I didn't want to chuck out before, and I planted them for tomatoes in winter, and they produced early in spring, which was great. So we'll just see. Do we get some early pineapple tomatoes? Do they die off? Do we get a cold winter? Don't know. We're going to find out. The climbing roses have obviously been doing well. They've really slowed down in terms of the growth they've put on. And I will show you the aisle that we planted up here. It's just that I just want to show you guys, not that you can see from where you are, that there's no sweet peas that climbed up here. It's so depressing. They got cooked because I planted them out right before a 40-degree day, because I'm really smart. And yeah, they got cooked, and the ones that survived then got no sun because these plants took off. So, well, whatever. So for a little context, this is the front archway, and now that we don't have any pumpkins or anything growing on this old archway, we can finally remove it. I just haven't got that far because it's been raining. And the alleyway of flowers is, I think, going to look really, really gorgeous here. We've got the dark purple straw flowers that have put on a lot of growth lately, and they're hopefully going to put on a beautiful show of flowers. But we've also got this Mystic Spires salvia, which is, I mean, it really needs to be cut back, but we get this beautiful little bird, and I think it's called an eastern spinebill, and I will correct it on the screen if I am wrong. And I've tried to capture it on film, but usually when I'm out here, the dogs are out here and the dogs chase it away pretty quickly, or it's a very skittish bird and I get close and it bolts. But it hovers and it kind of acts a little bit like a hummingbird, and it puts its little beak in and it drinks from the salvia, it eats its nectar. And so I am very disinclined to cut back the salvia, even though all of them, you know, need to kind of be wrapped up for the season. But there's still a couple of blooms on each of them. Some of them have more than others. And I want that little bird in my garden because it's beautiful. But I also want to make sure that I am providing food, if I can, for the birds. My neighbor actually commented the other day that there are a lot more birds, and I thought he was talking about getting more chickens, but he was, I think, talking about like the wheelie wagtails and the eastern spinebills and everything that's sort of emerging in this area, which is really great. To see so much wildlife come back to the garden, and to be honest, it's been one of my favorite things, is seeing like the native bees return and seeing all the birds. And like, I'm not a bird watcher, but it's just lovely to come out and see them doing their dance, and they help me. There's all these little tiny finches and things that I have now en masse in this garden, especially at sunset. They're out eating slugs and grubs and stuff, and so they're doing me a solid. So I want to do them a solid, and I'm not cutting back the salvias for as long as I can humanly resist doing so. These are a tall purple globe amaranth, and they're the same flowers we were looking at in the pollinator garden, and I just love them. I hope that they survive winter and keep blooming into spring, because we've got, as I said, the dark purple straw flower here, and just down the bottom we've got the apricot status, which haven't put on any flower spires yet that I can see, but I mean, maybe soon. I have seen status in this garden bloom all through winter, so you know, it'd be really nice to have that apricot with this kind of like hot purple and the dark purple of the straw flowers. I just think that'd be really beautiful. And it was also supposed to have, I think they're called My Navy sweet peas going up the back, which would have just been such a beautiful pop of colour, except, you know, 40-degree days out of nowhere torch things. So, you know, what can you do? But I love this flower because, like, yes, it's a really beautiful color, but it does also have these like teeny weeny little white flowers inside the actual purple color, and it makes for a beautiful, real, just divine, delicate little detail. And I'm really in love with these. I'm totally going to grow heaps of these because they're just perfect in bouquets, because they're like a little pop of color, and also they have amazing vase life, and they're just like an unusual shape to find in a bouquet. So I'm really just loving these. I've also dried a heap with the silica, but I haven't actually got as far as doing anything with them. I wanted to try and get, like, I have the red ones and white ones and these ones, and I think I have some soft pink ones, and I wanted to try and maybe make like a resin coffee place holder thing that just had all of these beautiful colored balls in it. And as I said, I want to make a spring wreath from them. I'm in love with them. They're absolutely gorgeous. For the time being, these little fences are doing a good job of holding them back, but I think the straw flowers will probably prove to be difficult to control, and I know the status tend to get a bit unruly by summer, but for now it's all good, even though these little fences are quite deformed now, because when we were looking after Dobby and he had his cone of shame on after he got desexed, he would run through here with absolutely no spatial awareness, and particularly on this other side they are just like bowed in all sorts of funny positions. But for now they're doing the job. For now they're keeping them out of the pathway, and they're also keeping the blackbirds out of it. So that's all I'm really looking for at this point. If we switch over to the other side of the veggie beds and start from the back down near the chicken coop and work our way forward again, we have got a red hot mess. We have got 1,000 carrot seedlings in the ground, and they're not going to do well because underneath this is plastic, which I need to pull up still. I need to remulch in this area. I haven't done all of the aisles. I've done a lot of them, and it's just made moving around the garden just so much better because it has just been like, no joke, ankle deep mud. And we've got some yellow carrots in here that need to be pruned. We've got echinacea here that I've been giving the seed heads to the chickens, and God only knows what they've been doing with them, probably nothing. The pineapples are looking great, but last time this area didn't get a lot of sun in winter, so they were looking pretty rough by the end of winter. However, last winter I had literally just chopped them off the top of a pineapple and stuck them in the ground. So at least obviously now they've got roots, so maybe they'll do a bit better. The strawberry area is, yeah, so this one's doing great. This bed, we had the blueberry plant that suddenly died, and in this back bed, while this one sends runners everywhere, like everywhere, this one never sent any runners out. And then I came out after the rains, and I would say 90% of those strawberry plants have died. They were a different variety. These were taken from runners from the strawberry bed we've got at the front of the garden, and these were some other store-bought ones. I don't know if they were like one season wonders, but they weren't that wonderful. They didn't really produce much, and now they're dead. So yeah. So I was giving all my runners to the chickens. Lucky I am not struggling for runners, so we're gonna at some point take runners off this bed and put them in this bed, and hopefully they don't die. If they die, there is something wrong with that soil, but I don't see why there'd be something wrong with that soil and not this soil, because it's the same soil because I did them at the same time. So, but the other two blueberry plants, one of them's actually got flowers on at the moment, so that's something. That's a positive sign. But I don't know what's going on in there. Behind the hot mess express that is that strawberry patch, we have got the corn bed, which I think I'm going to put some more stuff in here just to be essentially green manure over winter. But we did put in all the broad bean seeds that I had, and with the rain they've come up and they're looking really beautiful and healthy. And my plan is not to harvest any beans at all from this. I still have an obscene number of freeze-dried and frozen broad beans from last season. My plan is to chop and drop. It's just to allow these plants to develop, and then before they flower, chop them right off at the roots. If I get them before they flower, my understanding is that that is when you really get the nitrogen benefits from their root system and letting that compost in place. And corn is a heavy feeder, so and this is not a deep bed. Like, not only is this bed only 35 centimeters high, but it actually has wood in the bottom of it, and it's already produced 2 rounds of corn this season. So I want to kind of give back to the soil, and as I said, I don't have a lot of compost, we don't have a lot of autumn leaves, so what I can do is grow some green manure and chop it, and hope that then we, number one, have more product to make more compost, but also that we're leaving some nitrogen rich roots in there to compost in place. And also we're not leaving the soil sit there and do nothing over winter. So I need to fill in the gaps, but all in all, doing pretty well so far. The other area where things were pretty rough, and we're going to start moving a little bit faster, is where we had the zinnias and the tomatoes. And I mostly planted this bed half up with zinnias because the tomatoes seem to all have some sort of disease, and I was wondering if there was a soil-borne problem here. So I've been removing the zinnias as they die back and giving them to the chickens, as I said, with no real gratitude from the chickens. But we've got some my navy sweet peas here growing up through the middle, seeing we've already got this in place. We have got pyrethrum daisies, dying basil, and basically just flowers and some sunflowers for the chickens, which, you know, we all know they really appreciate. The sunflowers are absolutely gorgeous, and also kind of on the floor after that storm. And we've got some sort of strange squash vine rolling through here. We've got the sugar snap peas that are starting to put on flowers, and still just so many of these yellow capsicums But we're going to grab a few now and just take a brief break from filming while they do their whippersnippering. Hopefully the mic is actually drowning out the background noise, because the longer I wait, the more noise in the neighborhood there is. So we're just going to get on with it. This bed is looking really beautiful on this side and really sparse on the back side. On the back side was where a whole stack of self-seeded what they call beetroots had germinated and then got destroyed by blackbirds. So, story of my life lately. And these are the broccolis that were looking absolutely fabulous, but we've just had a couple of cabbage moth and slugs move in after the rain. These are the ones I planted a little bit deeper, and they were looking absolutely just perfect and healthy. They still look pretty good by comparison. So hopefully we might get a broccoli. Like, hopefully chances are we get one from this area. I've got to do a little bit of clear out of marigolds and things like that, but the celery is starting to pop up, and I'm tempted to actually remove the blackbird cages now, but like in some cases it's almost to the point where I've left it a little too late. So I don't know, because I don't want to pull it out too early and then have the blackbirds come in and decimate things, but it is what it is. I also like we've got the sugar snap peas beside me, and they're looking gorge, and I want more of them because I love sugar snap peas. But you might notice some things like these dandelion weeds that I'm just leaving in the garden beds now, most of the time, to be honest, because it's been so wet and I haven't been outside. I haven't noticed them till they're more developed, and during that time I read that these are actually a great source of, I think it is, vitamin B for the chickens, especially after coccidiosis treatment, which I think inhibits vitamin B or something in order to kill the plague that they had that broke their butts. Anyway, so yesterday I walked all around the neighborhood and picked a whole bunch of dandelions for them to help them replenish, because apparently chickens are supposed to love dandelions and it's supposed to be really good for them. They like the greens, they have no interest at all in the flowers. Freckle Betty plucked at a few, but that was about it. But that's because Freckle Betty's cool and a gangster. But yeah, I mean, the beds we planted up early are mostly kind of looking like this, kind of medium, and we still have some gorgeous zinnias in this bed that are holding steady. But for the most part, everything is in that sort of infancy stage where you're just waiting to see if it's, I guess, going to survive the next rain. And we are going to whirl through this area a bit because it's kind of similar to a lot of the other beds. The garlic going great guns. The bed of cauliflower, terrible. Absolutely terrible. The plant itself wanted to live, but I can see a giant caterpillar on it, so you will die right now. And another one. But we have got, and another one. Caterpillars just mauled them. It seems like they want the collies more than they want the brocks. And then we also had something come in here and dig the living daylights out of these what are they called, spring onions, which I need to chop. The sunflowers are cooked and done, and then the slugs decimated the rest of the cauliflowers, so awesome. The sweet peas here are doing beautifully, and I need to plant some what is it called, spinach underneath here. The cucumbers are still producing very occasionally, but I appreciate that. The brown onions here survived the rain, so that's, you know, something. But the broccoli and cauliflower, same as over here, decimated. So I really need to get out here, I think, today with the kaolin clay. But in order to do that, I need to wrap up this garden tour. We've got some zinnias here that I'm not loving the color of. They're probably Oklahoma salmon again, although they seem a little darker.